happy, productive life, but sometimes we just need a little help. Our Coach on Call experts provide strategies to help you live your best life now. Joining me today is Heidi Rome, an autism mom's coach and founder of Mom's Spectrum Oasis. Heidi's Autism Hope Mindset System empowers a mom to take back her life while creating a bright future for her spectrum child. Heidi is here today to discuss the tragedy narrative of autism. Welcome, Heidi. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Joan, for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So, Heidi, you've been working with moms that are dealing with the autism journey, and you say that, ironically, the factor that causes the most suffering is the one that's invisible to most people. What do you mean by the tragedy narrative of autism?
So the tragedy narrative of autism causes so much unnecessary suffering that moms of kids on the spectrum experience every day. We are all immersed and trained in many societal narratives from the moment that we're born. And these are the messages and language around any particular issue, the invisible beliefs and assumptions and programming that are always running in the background. So if I say the word cancer, for example, as having a societal tragedy narrative, I think people understand that very quickly. The fear that clutches your throat right away, your breathing becomes shallow, you feel the energy and life force drained from your body, you stop thinking, you just feel this dread. Because the word tragedy, the concept of it, catastrophe, disaster, don't you just want to scream and run away? But you can't if it's something that you're living. And it also demonstrates the power of language, using the word tragedy, the power of communication on how we perceive and how we feel and our energy, and in fact what we end up manifesting. Because what we see and believe is the foundation that we move forward into. So there's a distinction between the actual circumstance of something and the emotional and cognitive response to that circumstance. So yes, autism is life-changing and it is a challenge, but is it automatically a tragedy? So if you try different language to replace the word tragedy, like the challenge narrative of autism, you get a sense of the difference in that energy. If I replace challenge or tragedy with purposeful, the purposeful narrative of autism. And then let me even play a little more the hero narrative of autism. So you can feel the difference in your energy, in your body. Which word makes you feel stronger and stand taller with your shoulders back and you make eye contact and smile? Because the tragedy language makes us desperate. When we hear that, we go into fear. Our brains, the amygdala kicks in. We go into survival mode, and all the options that we can perceive are fight, flight, freeze, appease, because higher level thought or connection with other people flies out the window when we're scared. So tell you very quickly an example of this. My husband and I had gone to an autism conference, saw a video that looked like it was showed by a therapist showing this particular therapy that she did, and it looked like before our very eyes in this 10-minute video, she was curing this particular child of autism by touching his foot in a certain way. And my husband and I were so panicked about my son's autism, we looked at each other and we said, hey, we have to take him to this. And we took the money out of the bank and went to San Francisco for an intensive, expensive, 2-week intensive therapy, only at the end for it to not be effective. And we had wasted 2 weeks of hope and money and trust, and we were a mess. So the bottom line is the tragedy narrative is not a neutral thing. It can really be very powerful and draw you to do things that are not in your own or your child's best interest.
So, Heidi, what can someone do to manage this narrative?
First, they need to breathe and calm themselves down. The second thing is to pay attention. Are you asking the right questions of the right people? Is this too good to be true? What's going on here? Use other people to be a calmer check and balance, to make sure that we're not unknowingly operating out of fear, out of that tragedy narrative. Learn from other people's mistakes and identify if you are living within a tragedy narrative. Notice the language that you're using. Is it fear-based language? Notice your body's reactions. Is your jaw clenched? Is your breathing shallow? Are you even thinking at all, or you're just reacting or running? Because you won't make good long-term decisions if you're coming from fear, if you're coming from that tragedy narrative. The great news with this, though, is that once you are aware that you're defaulting to that tragedy narrative, you can choose a different, more empowering narrative to align with the circumstances you're facing. Change the script, change the language. Choose to learn from autism and not be its victim. When you choose your role, when you choose to step out of that tragedy narrative, you can choose to be the hero as you write your life story moving forward and not be a victim of that narrative or any other narrative that's not of your choosing.
Heidi, thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to learn more about this topic or about Heidi and her work, you can visit momsspectrumoasis.com. And as always, to hear more from Heidi, you can visit our website, cyacyl.com/Heidi. We'll be right back.